Hi everyone, this is Oksana. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I want to say a huge thank you to Rio Grande for sponsoring this video. I'm using their awesome wire to make this pendant. You guys have voted, or rather commented on my other video that you wanted to see other shapes like a teardrop, for example, and there was a few others which I will make in future videos as well, but this video is going to be about the teardrop shape in that round wire design. I've tried to make it a little different looking just so it's not too similar to the rectangle that I made previously. So this is going to be using all round wires, just two types of round wire, two sizes, and a teardrop shaped stone. I think the back of it looks nice as well. So if you want to see how I made this pendant, just keep watching. The wire I'll be using for this project is 18 gauge round dead soft copper and 28 gauge round dead soft copper. Both are from riogrande.com. This is what their 1 pound spools look like. Obviously I've already used quite a bit of this one, but there's still plenty left. So we are just gonna start with one piece of that 18 gauge wire, and you can use 20 if you want to. My stone is quite small. It was real borderline. I thought about using 20, but I decided to stick with 18 because it's just sturdier. And I think that this is 17 inches long. I think that it'll still work for my stone, even though it's a bit on the smaller side. So I wanted to use a teardrop because that was a requested shape, and then I also thought that I would use a smaller stone as well because it's a little different. You can kind of fit less wire on it, so to speak. So I thought that I would show you how it would go for a smaller stone. So this is about 27 millimeters, just a little bit more than an inch. Yours doesn't have to be this exact size. And we are going to start out by taking our wire, bringing the two ends of it together, and this determines the middle of the wire. So then when we take our stone, we are going to be shaping this wire around the stone. But before we do that, I want to show you a little trick, because when you shape this around the stone, you will most likely get a nice snug fit. And then later on, when you are attaching things with your fine 28 gauge round wire, you might have a really hard time working it underneath the wire to form an attachment if it's really tight up against a stone like this. So how do you bend this around the stone and leave just the teeny tiniest gap? Well, in order to do that, you want to take a scrap piece of 28 gauge round wire if you happen to have a scrap. If not, you'll probably just have to cut yourself a piece. And you want to just wrap it around a few times like this. It doesn't have to be a ton. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 9 times is what I did, but just anywhere in that vicinity. And what's going to happen when we bend this wire around our stone is a tiny gap will be formed that is the size of that 28 gauge round wire, which is the type of wire we want to be using later to attach. So it should give us enough space. So after you have shaped it around your teardrop and you get to the top point here, you just want to, either with your fingers or with pliers if that's easier for you, but you want to bring the wires together. I like to just kind of bend them back and forth, kind of side to side with my fingers, and then what ends up happening is they end up aligned tightly like this. And then here is our little teardrop. you can remove this little scrap piece of wire now. It has served its purpose. So now we are going to be weaving our bail with our 28 gauge round wire. I am going to leave it on the spool and just grab the tail end of it here. And I will leave a link for you guys of this weaving pattern if you're learning it for the first time, especially. That's a nice slow video that shows it in great detail. So I'm putting it through the middle, pinching it here with my fingers to hold it, and now I'm bringing it up the back and kind of over that top wire, bringing it down across both wires. Let me zoom in a tiny bit. There we go. Bringing it up through the middle, up over that top wire, and then underneath the top wire. And now up and down across both wires, up through the middle, up over the top wire, and underneath the top wire. And you can see the little weaving pattern starting to form. I'm keeping it separated here so you can see the little individual wraps, but ideally you want to push it together nice and tight like this. So I'm going to continue with this weaving pattern until it's about 3/4 of an inch long. And by the way, the tools that I'll be using in this video are pliers. These particular ones are the Lindstrom brand, RX 7890. I will also be using wire cutters to cut my wire. These are Swanstrom. And then my round nose pliers to make any sort of swirls are Lindstrom RX 7590. So those are the 3 tools that I'll be using. All right, so once it's about 3/4 of an inch or so long, that's long enough for the bail, and you just want to flip it over. And here on the back, we are going to trim our wire. So that little tail end on the bottom, as well as this one here. We're going to trim them both. And then we're going to press down on those little wire ends just to make sure they are flat and not sticking up. All right, so now we're going to flip it over to the front again. We are going to double check that the shape of it didn't change, because you could have accidentally like squished it a little bit. Make sure it still fits nicely around your teardrop. So we are going to be holding it right here with our pliers, and I'm going to bend it forward and then kind of curve it backwards, making a bail shape. I'm going to, oops, wrong way. I'm going to separate my wires here. If you want to use something to bend this around, like bail making pliers or some sort of tool, feel free to do that. I'm just going to use my fingers and my pliers. All right, so here's our little bail shape, and now we're going to bend our wires to the front like this, so they're just naturally gonna crisscross. Go ahead and just push them all the way down. So last time we wrapped the 28 gauge wire around one of these. This time I have not done that, but feel free to do it if you want to. So popping my stone in this frame. It fits, no problem. So whichever wire is on top, for me it's this one. That's the one that we're gonna curve down first. And then the other one is gonna follow it. It's gonna curve in the same direction, like this. All right, so now we're just gonna grab our stone, pop it in here. It's not gonna stay put until we finish with these wires, but right now it's gonna hold this top portion. So now I'm bending the wires around all the way around like this. So on the back, they're just going across like that. And on the front, here's how it's looking. So I'm going to make kind of a curve here. I like the lines in this stone, and so instead of making lots of swirls, I'm going to try and kind of go with the lines of the stone. We'll see how it works out. Now I'm bending it to the back. So here's how it looks. All right, here on the back, I think if we leave this wire and trim it and make a swirl and attach it, that will be good, and that will cover the back and keep it secure. So I'm just curling it with my round nose pliers, making a pretty decent size swirl here, just because I think that would, there we go. That'll be good. That'll keep our back secure. Let me just adjust it slightly with my pliers, press down on it so it's nice and flat. There we go. And then we'll attach it with our 28 gauge wire later. And that should be good. The back should be good. So now this wire, we are going to bend it to the front. Here it is, coming out the front here. And let's see, maybe if I bend it like this. So to finish it off, I will make a swirl, but I'll just keep it nice and small so that this is more about the lines, the curved lines, than swirls. So I'm just gonna trim the wire and make just a small little swirl here on the bottom. Like that, and I'm going to press down on that, make it nice and flat. All right, so I think that looks good, almost like a little bubble, because there's like a little circle here. So under the sea themed pendant, all we have to do now is make the little connections, because obviously nothing is secured down and things can move. So we are going to be grabbing ourselves a few pieces of the 28 gauge round wire, just about 4 inches long or so, should be adequate. So the first thing I'm going to do is attach this swirl on the back by putting the wire underneath the swirl, and then these 2 wires here. So I'm going to do that, whoops, a couple of times, just so I have a nice secure connection. I'm going to use my pliers to help me here. There we go. And now this wire, I'm going to wrap it around just this little edge here of my swirl, because before we trim the wires, we want to wrap them around a single wire. That way they have the best chance of not unraveling. I'm trying to bend the tip of my wire here so when I put it through, it's easy to grab here on the other side. So I'm just wrapping it around several times, maybe 5 or 6 times. That should be adequate. And then after I do that, I can trim it and then tuck away the little end of it there. by using my pliers to kind of bend the end down and then push and tuck it away. And let's see. There we go. I just pressed that tighter together, that's all. So now with this wire, I'm going to wrap it around here, I think. This bottommost wire. I think I can put it through there. Just whatever's easiest for you. If it's easiest to do this top wire, that's fine too. You can even just bring it down and wrap it around here. Whatever you can get it around easier. So for me this works because I can just kind of put it through this little gap here on the edge, and that makes it work for me. So just a few more times so I can make sure it is secure. Let's do one last time. Of course, now it wants to give me trouble. There we go. That looks good. So just trim and then take that little wire end and face it down, press down on it so it is out of the way, and let me just tighten up this wrap. So here's how it looks, and the back is secure. So now we just have to secure this wire here. We can attach it to this edge here. You can see the tiny gap. So we'll be able to fit our wire through there. And I think it's optional, but I think it would also probably be beneficial to attach it right here as well. So I cut myself another piece of that 28 gauge wire. This one's a little longer. It's probably like 8 inches because I'm gonna try, instead of doing an attachment here and then a second piece of wire and an attachment there, I'm gonna try to do it all with one wire. So first I'm gonna work it underneath everything here, just like this. So you want it to go underneath all 3 wires like this. Now I'm going to push it underneath just the 2 wires. Like that. And then this end, I'm gonna wrap it around everything again. So underneath all 3. And that makes a wrap around all 3 like that. So to finish off this wire, I need to wrap it around a single wire, and to do that I need to kind of wedge my pliers in here. There we go, make a little gap because I'm gonna have a hard time getting this wire in between. So let's see. There we go, that works. So I'm wrapping it around just this wire here. There you can see that single little loop. So I'm just going to do that several times. All right, that's probably good. So to finish it off, we're gonna trim it. But leave a little end there so that we can grab that little wire end, kind of turn it downwards, press down on it, and tuck it away, and let's tighten this up. There we go. So now this wire here, I'm gonna wrap it around this little swirl a few times so that I can reach the bottom of the swirl. Oh my gosh, it's not going in there. There we go. Because I want to attach it to that bottommost wire. But to do that, I need to kind of go down and be near there. So let's see how we're doing. It's probably good. All right. So that's good. This isn't quite close enough to this wire. Let's see if we can work it underneath that wire and then also through the swirl. There we go. That should probably be good. I just don't want to pull this wire so much in the front that it's no longer like nicely on the side there. So it's going to be a tiny little gap there. That's okay. And now I'm going to wrap it around a single wire. It's just going to be this little edge wire here before I trim it off. If you don't have a lot of space in this little edge wire and you need to wrap it around the swirl, feel free to do that. Just whatever works best and is easiest. That's probably good. So now we can trim, leave ourselves a little end to tuck away, and then bend that down and press it down to tuck it away. And that is done. So our back is secure, this swirl is attached, this swirl is attached in two different places. I wanted to attach this little side because theoretically you can get caught on something and lift up. So now that's been attached and we are good to go. Let me adjust my bail here. And that's it. That is the finished piece. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a like down below and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of new videos which I make every single weekend. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!